A
I'm a
child
dumbass.
awakens on a dusty mountain. He doesn't know where he is, and thusly he is confused. He is injured. And because of this, he is greeted by men on horses with weapons that sting and prod and poke. The weapons knock the child out, and he awakens once more in a cavernous pit. Many dirty and vicious-looking men are there, bedecked in tattoos and ritual scarification. The one that seems the most prominent on most of them is a rope of twisting black and red bands going down the length of their spine and then curving up towards the rest of their body. They are preparing for something, and the child is forced to do so as well. The Devil's Tears is the name of the event, or at least he learns that's what it is called. In this cave-like structure, these warriors gather, and the child follows where he is directed. Knowing no malice to any one of these individuals, he simply obeys to try and understand where he is, and what exactly is going on. Following the marching lines of gladiators, he follows them up worn-down stone stairs and into a sun-soaked, dusty arena flanked by the booming voices of a crowd who is watching from on high. The voices are unknown to the child as he doesn't speak their language, but he follows the other gladiators by example, and they go to this platform. Several large stone blocks stacked increasingly small size to form a small pyramidal structure. Directly in the center of this massive dust-covered arena is in the center. The men begin to pool into the center, and the second the last individual steps onto the bottom rung of this massive pyramid-like platform, the area begins to flood with a brackish green liquid, the same consistency of water but with an ominous shimmer and sizzle to it. The smell is what hits the child first. Acrid, caustic.
It's acid?
This isn't just water. As an arena hazard, it's something acidic. This is confirmed once the liquid has started to pool and elevate stage by stage up, and that is when the first of the gladiators is thrown into the pool. The space becomes crowded as the water level rises on the ascending pyramidal steps of the platform, and people begin to fight to keep on to the platform, throwing people into the water, which results in screaming, burning. The smell of singed and rancid meat fills the air as the child looks on nervously. This is when he realizes that not only is he stronger than all of these men, even in his small stature, he is in fact faster and smarter. Recognizing the suffering that these men go through simply by dying in the acid, he breaks the necks of those that try to fight him so they die instantly before throwing them into the acid. One after another, the child ends life after life, trying to make it quick and painless, though showing no fear in the process. Eventually, it is just the child standing atop this mound, the last one of over 3 dozen men that came out there. A drone, mechanical in nature, the shape of a worm with a large eye in the center, flies up to him and asks him a question. He doesn't understand the language of the person speaking, but a decision is made for him. Through context clues, he realizes they are naming him. As the crowd begins to chant this child's name that he has earned in this arena, he realizes that this is hell. A place he should not be. The crowd chants over and over and over again his name, his new name for his new home. Angron is the name they are chanting. Hello everyone, I'm Arthur, and I thought I should introduce this video differently as this topic is a bit serious to me. I know a lot of you have been commenting that I'm ducking the Angron video, but here it is. For those who don't know, this is part 11 in a 20-part series I am doing covering all of the Primarchs, and me breaking down them a bit more in depth than other people usually would, and try to give a different angle as to how you could view them. Do you need to have seen the other parts to understand this one? No, but it would make me happy. There are several reasons as to why I started this specific series covering the Primarchs, but the main one was a conversation I had with a close friend of mine. I mentioned I always was just kind of annoyed with Angron at the time, and he mentioned to me that, and I quote, "Yeah, it's really sad that he's less of a character and more of an allegory for the cycle of physical abuse," to which made my synapses flare like I was about to have a Jimmy Neutron-style brain blast. That, plus me talking about the Lion for a few days straight before this all started, was what made me want to make this list. I want to talk about other Primarchs, but Angron is one that I've been fixating on for months now. Angron took a bit longer for me to research than the research cycle of the other Primarchs, and thus we are here to talk about him and what I think about him, and why I think he deserves a better reputation than he currently has. I mean, he's not a good character, but he is a good event. So to give a shorter synopsis of the rest of Child Angron's childhood, we started earlier, he was forced to fight for years on end for the entertainment of a group known as the High Riders of New Syria. Being raised by a kind and wise older gladiator to be just and noble, which were actually key concepts to Angron as a whole even before then, it seemed that kindness was very natural to him. So basically, after securing nothing but victories, he was eventually told to fight his father figure immediately after the two of them being battered and bruised by two ogrins with the butcher's nails embedded into their brains. He said no, but he also told off the High Riders and their maggots' eyes drones, which led to him being sedated and forced to have the butcher's nails implanted in his brain. So, the interesting part here is that the butcher's nails were made for humans, so they can be used on humans, and you can survive pretty much indefinitely with the butcher's nails in. It won't be an easy life, and you'll probably succumb to madness, but you will be able to survive. Even ab-humans can live for quite a long time. But Primarch brains are significantly different from the stock standard human. So because of that, the High Rider surgeon, made it fit, removing sections of Angron's brain and squeezing in as many of the needly dreadlocks as humanly possible to make it work.
What the fuck? Wait. They had to make it fit? What the fuck? What the ever-loving fuck? What? No wonder he's traumatized to hell. Holy shit.
It did, sorta. Turning him into a massive berserking monster that lost all control, and he couldn't think straight, so there really wasn't much in terms of the thinky planny bits that he normally would do going on, so, he did what he could. Just as a heads up, I think this video is going to be a bit longer than normal, so get strapped in, as I have a lot to say. With all that preamble out of the way, there are 3 sections to this video that I want to cover. I've already done technically the first half of part 1.
How traumatized am I gonna be? How traumatized am I gonna be? I already feel like I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna grab the tissues. Hold on a sec, guys. It's right behind me. Okay. Got the tissues. I'm ready. I've got the tissues. I'm ready, guys.
Which is, I want to cover the backstory of Angron as to why he's an integral figure and who he is as a person. Then, after that, I want to cover how he interacted with his legion and how that led to, the whoopsie-poopsie that was the Horus Heresy. And then finally after that, I want to talk about where he is now, what my conclusions are, and the major point that I want to talk about. So strap in, this is going to get incredibly depressing. But before I do that, let me just pay my bills really quickly.
It's time for a sponsor.
When I'm slaving away in the gladiatorial pits I call my basement, where I have to fight off corgi-sized rats with nothing more than a dehydrated Subway sandwich, I needs me an energy boost from time to time. But what if I wanted to relax with something that didn't give me a pep in my step, and I just wanted something that tasted good? Well, GamerSupps has many different caffeine-free options that are genuinely tasty.
Hi, I want you guys to know, once again, we are watching all of the ads for one reason and one reason only. If we are watching someone's content for free, we will be watching all of the ads. It only makes sense. If I have enough money, I'd also financially support them. But for right now, I'm a little poor, so we're going to be watching the ads.
I picked up the caffeine-free nuclear bombsicle from that lovable queso last month, and it's been kind of my go-to drink of choice when I'm feeling something sweet but don't want to grab a soda. So, using my code BONEZONE at checkout, will for a limited
Is this one called Grandpa's Ashes? You know, I don't want to question
give you free shipping, which ends this Friday the 13th. So you should probably jump on that before you're too late. Grab yourself a shaker cup, a tub of gamer subs, and make sure to let me know in the comments what you got, because I that shit like a hawk. Thanks again to Gamer Subs for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to talking about something incredibly depressing.
No! Oh no! Downward spiral, my boy!
Angron is a character I think about a lot. I'm gonna say that sentence a lot as we progress because in general I think he is a character worth studying. Now look at me being a pseudo-intellectual and trying my hardest to sound all big and bad, but in the short run of things, I'm literally just an idiot. I am just a faux intellectual who is trying to make my point seem interesting enough that you will possibly go back and look at Angron in a different way, and in the process just making a whole lot of noise. I don't think I'm saying Angron's tale in any way different from how most people would nowadays, but I want to make a video that does him justice. I mean, in a reductive way, it's not really that entertaining for me to just say, yeah, Angron was abused by power-obsessed lunatics, so he abused his sons, and now his sons abuse the universe. It's not really that clever for me to say so, but there are so many elements to break down. So, let's get into it, and start with his Legion. He is probably the only Primarch to have probably most of his Legion fucking hate him. He was a monster of a man, though it isn't without reason. So, once he was out of the High Riders arena and waged his own personal war with a few slaves he took with him, he ended up basically putting himself into a situation where he was going to be killed. The reasons why are a bit all over the place, but it was a mixture of him feeling constant pain from a partial lobotomy and the butcher's nails being implanted, and him just wanting to die a warrior's death with the people he called his family after the death of his father. So that didn't happen, because as Angron and his men were dying, the Emperor pulled him up into his own ship right before he could fight, and instead of taking time to bring Angron to heal, he just shipped him off to the Conqueror, which was the flagship of the Warhounds at the time, and just kind of hoped the Warhounds would kind of set him straight, because they were his gene children. It kind of did. Well, after sending about half a dozen different delegatory forces to go meet Angron, they started to realize their Primarch shouldn't be turning his sons into a viscous red paste on.
I get it, but also why didn't the Emperor? I feel like if the Emperor had saved some of the gladiators, right, it probably would have. Are you liking this video? You are, aren't you? Aren't you? Well, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe. Also, drop a comment down telling me what you want to see next, and maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. Who knows? You'll have to keep watching, don't you? Made a difference. Angron probably would have been a little less angry, but then what the fuck? This is so sad, guys. Iron Warriors also kind of hate Peter Turbo. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised.
On the ground whenever he sees them, so they ended up sending Karn, and Karn convinces his dad to work with them, almost dying in the process and appealing to his warrior spirit essentially to do so.
No.
So this marks where Angron takes control of his Legion, and it leads to one of the key features of his Legion, which is the countdown timer. See, Angron is a slave to the past. He is a slave to Nuceria, the planet he was raised on, especially the traditions he adopted on that planet.
Okay.
So in reference to how him and his escaped slaves would burn High Rider cities to the ground, Angron put in a rule where whenever there was a world that the World Eaters would would try to bring into compliance, they would have to do so in a single Nucerian day, which is 31 hours. Failing to do so would lead to punishment before he would take the reins and then start to attack the world himself. These punishments were usually decimation at best, which is insane to think about how cruel Angron truly was because of this, because they can go way worse than that. But Angron didn't care. His legion began to try to work out where they would get the butcher's nails from and how they could recreate them so that they could be more like their father, in hopes that he would become more lenient with them. He even encouraged them to do so that he could refer to them as his sons. But it was also because the nails that were digging into his brain were actually melting the parts of his brain away that could think of the nails in any negative light. It was also slowly eroding away all of his positive emotions in place of rage. In essence, the creation of the nails was the final nail in the coffin that was the World Eaters, as they became no more than a horde of butchers and monsters afterwards, with I think well over 90% to 99% of the Legion being forced to incorporate them, and with only a few stragglers on the side who are incompatible with the nails alongside the, librarians who can't have them, being the only ones who didn't take them.
But why? What the fuck? I dipped out. Did I miss the fact that Angron had a dog that died with the rest of his family? What? Angron had a dog? What the fuck? Okay. Who wrote that piece of lore? I just want to have a talk. I just want to have a discussion with this man. Okay? Whoever wrote the lore for Angron, I think they need therapy. What do you mean not only his family dies, but the writer gave him a dog so that his dog could die too? Yeah. Apparently Angron had a dog on his home planet that also died. About the dog from Bricky? I probably did. It's been a week. I don't even remember what I had for breakfast. Fuck. Oh man. No, wait. Gladiator Angron. No, he had a puppy. Oh my god, what the fuck? Oh, this is so bad. Oh, he's just a guy. His name is Little Ang? No! I get it now. I'd be pissed too. I'd be angry too. I'm just saying, I'd be so angry.
Legion afterwards, even with the nails embedded, was still left divided, as it's often reported the Legion with the highest amount of defectors during the Horus Heresy was the World Eaters, because most of them just didn't want to engage in Angron's insanity and decided to defect to the side of the Loyalists. Angron was getting worse. Angron's brain was constantly being pulled on and ripped apart because his Primarch abilities make it so that his brain tissue could just heal over any damage over time, but the nails were constantly there to cause small tears in the brain. So this mixture of constantly creating open wounds to cause pain and constantly healing faster than the wounds can really be made causes this sort of feedback where the nails have pieces of brain starting to grow onto them and be attached, which causes the wounds that the nails create to become greater and greater and greater, ripping larger and larger holes in Angron's brain, causing blackouts, hallucinations, violent mood swings, and him to become even more of a stark, raving, mad lunatic. He was starting to forget. He was starting to lose himself in those hallucinations to the point where even before the World Eaters had fully incorporated the nails, he had to be knocked unconscious by about a half dozen librarians just because he went into a feral rage as one of the cables snapped on his head. It leads to one of the saddest moments I've ever seen. Just this long-running pathway of Angron's life and his relationship with the nails, where in a stroke of genius writing, Angron is forced to fight Rabute Gilliman, which, if you look into it, there are no two more opposite Primarchs that had a very similar kind of base personality. Both Angron and Gilliman were very noble souls when they were young, but it differentiates when you get to how they were treated. It's very nature versus nurture, where there's this interaction between the two during this fight that highlights something that I kind of want to dig into. So put a pin in this, we'll come back.
I just gotta say, I am so sympathetic towards him because he didn't choose to do this to himself. It was forced onto him, and he just has to live with like the fact that it will slowly kill him, right? And he lives every day in pain, knowing full well that it's gonna slowly kill him, but because he has like insane regenerative abilities, it's also like really fucking bad. Like, he doesn't know it's gonna kill him. That's even worse. He also wants, I would too. Like, shit. This is so sad. This is actually really, really sad. Oh my god. And now he can't die. He's just constantly in pain.
Stated in several books, at least in terms of implication rather than directly stating it, that Angron basically doesn't care. He essentially just has, well, not to diagnose as a non-professional, but he has depression. He states openly in, I believe, the short story After Deshea that he left his soul on New Syria. He left himself on New Syria. The person we see throughout the entirety of our acknowledgement of his existence is not Angron, but pieces of Angron appear when he realizes what he is. Angron isn't happy with himself. He doesn't want to be a berserker. He never would. But he has rode out this path for so long that it's all he knows, and all he wants to do is die and have it end. So there is no going back. It's this ladder theory that I bring up, where at a certain point of climbing a ladder, you can't really jump off without hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So Angron is so far down this path of bloody destruction that most people know him as a berserker, and he can't stop because, well, how could he? So because of this, we only see glimpses of Angron's true personality when he's allowed to have these moments of lucidity. And there was this moment when Angron was fighting Gilliman where Angron just bellows in envy and resentment towards Gilliman, saying that if the shoe were on the other foot, he would be exactly like Angron. It has nothing to do with nobility. It is just the circumstances of their birth were different. He is upset that the people of Gilliman's world referred to him as the Great One. Meanwhile, the people of Angron's world of New Syria referred to him as slave, referring to the butcher's nails for probably one of the rare few times as one of the most negative things to have ever happened to him, by referring to it with such blunt terminology as they carved up his brain with butcher's knives. It's crazy how much you can actually see the hate and resentment in his tone just by reading that small monologue. But with all that being said, these moments of lucidity don't ever give us a perfect picture of what Angron would have looked like without the nails, and we will never know what Angron would have been like, as when we cut to him now, in the present day, due to Lorgar preventing his warrior's death, Angron is now a demon prince of Khorne, a bloody murderer who does nothing but fight, feel rage and pain, and be a slave to his primal instincts.
No, this is so sad. What the fuck? In an ideal world, this man could have been whole, but it's just not happening. Holy shit.
And he can no longer be anything but that. The one thing that he wanted to never be as a child is the one thing that he will always be now. And that's what he is, a slave. He's a slave to Khorne, he's a slave to rage. He is nothing but killing incarnate, and he's the exact opposite of that innocent boy that was on the dusty mountains that was originally the beginning of this story. To get to my conclusion and wrap this up, I like thinking about Angron before he was a murderous gladiator controlled by the nails, because in that you see what he was supposed to be. See, a lot of people think he was supposed to be a healer or a noble warrior, but if you look at the Warhound's combat tactics and a few of the things that they say, you realize that they were still pretty war-obsessed as a legion before he showed up. But to point it out, their combat style lines up with how Angron as a child was. Taciturn and observant, slow and plodding, methodical but without being callous. They have firm beliefs of brotherhood and believe that combat is the best way in order to foster brotherhood. The perfect warrior, the perfect battle brother, but we never got to see much of that as Angron ended up losing himself. Like, a good example of this is one of the most intimidating things during the Great Crusade. It was stated in a few books that it was never the berserking charges of Leman Russ or the fanged angels of the Revenant Legion. It was the silent and moving assault that the Warhounds were known for, where in large and wide formations of soldiers with nothing but melee weapons and small arms would actually make their way forward on a battlefield, moving slowly with shields and swords, grinding their way through individuals, and it's openly stated that they never move faster than a light walk. They would never sprint or run, and I always thought that was super interesting because alongside that, they would never yell. They would never have these berserker charges because they would just simply cut off people and then rip them to pieces like a pack of wild dogs if they ever got close enough. They would never run people down. The Legion, much like Angron, was one of empathy but also stoic defiance, much more so than berserker ragers that they ended up becoming, and we only ever get to see a few scant glimpses of this. But alongside that, we only ever get to see a few scant glimpses of this weird psychic ability that Angron had, his weird Primarch power of supreme empathy, the ability to take away someone's pain and feel it himself.
Wait, so this is, oh my god, so not only can he take away someone's pain and feel it himself, he can just feel like double the fucking pain then. Lorgar sucks, guys. Lorgar fucking sucks. This is so sad. This is really tragic and fucked up and evil, and I'm so sad now, guys. What the fuck?
Think it's ever fully expressed what this is or what the final part of it is, because the portion of his brain that had it is probably gone now. But alongside that part that's gone, I think that it's more important to point out that Angron, he's no longer here. And I'm not saying that because Demon Prince Angron took his place. No, it goes further back than that. Angron died before any of this, before he was even found by the Emperor. Long before the Horus Heresy even broke out, Angron died after Deshea. It's just his body didn't know. I'll leave you all with one of my favorite facts, and it's not commonly talked about, but did you all know that Angron actually made attempts on his own life? One of the only Primarchs to actually do so, only being beaten out by his brother Conrad. Angron fled his legion relatively short into his tenure as the Primarch to a bunch of random feral worlds with massive dinosaurian-style monsters on it. It took Karn, his equerry, over 18 months to find him, and when he did, he got a glimpse as to what Angron was, as in a moment of lucidity. He could see Angron without the madness, which is kind of bizarre knowing the situation. Angron was found naked in some backwater planet's cave, surrounded by tribal fetishes and offerings from the local populace, as well as massive skulls from monsters that Angron had killed with his bare hands. Karn looked at Angron and simply asked, "Why are you here?" And Angron replied in a way that made me feel a certain way that I can't fully describe. He came here to die because he didn't want to live without his brothers and sisters from New Syria, and his life will never be the same. He described the constant ticking in his brain and the pain he was constantly feeling, but he realized that he would never want to be a coward and take his own life in his own hands. So he wanted to find a monster big enough that could finally destroy him. And he never did. And he never will. Karn talked him off of that ledge, but I think there was honestly no one to talk off. Angron is an empty shell. He is not a person. He is not a character. I think Angron is better looked at as an action. He's a bomb that goes off in a room. He is like a living storm, something that can be observed. I think the best way to see Angron is he is a story. And it's why partially I agree with the kind of shit he takes that Angron is the worst Primarch and he's like a bad character. And yeah, he is genuinely not really a good character in terms of writing and in terms of if you look at him from the perspective of a character, but he is a good story.
He's such an... Oh my god. Okay, I don't hate Angron, right? Because I think that deep inside, he is, like, sympathetic to people, but at the same time, it's just that, like, so much shit has happened to him, not to mention the fucking nails. But, oh... Angron is a tool that Games Workshop uses to show that a character is strong by having them fight Angron. I kind of see it, but they made Angron, the character, so sympathetic. It's kind of insane. Yeah, they kind of really made him, like, the punching bag, I feel like. I don't know. He's a terrible Primarch, don't get me wrong. He's a terrible Primarch. But also, I feel like Turbo Depression... Okay, can I mean, I think I can just say it. The Emperor has favorites, right? And it's so obvious who the favorites are and who he doesn't give a shit about that it's, like, kind of, like, painful. He's created these monsters on his own. Yeah. This is so fucking... It's... He started killing people. Like, obviously killing is wrong, right? Obviously killing is wrong. But if you're that, like, insane and crazy and that super strong, where the only emotion that you feel is rage, I feel like I get why he tried to take his own life, and I feel really sad about that. I just feel really, really sad about that. But he's boring? Well, I don't think he's meant to be boring. I don't know if I'm slipping into chaos. I still love my boy Rogel Dorn, right? But yeah, I can't, but I also can't realistically say that it's him. Cause we know that he is not built like that. He's not actually built like that. He got modified into being like that. You know? Just tragic. Just absolutely sad and tragic. And yeah, if someone messes with your brain to the point where it's no longer you, isn't that, like, kind of tragic? So the joys of being you're gonna fall closer. Like, they're both kind of valid, right? Like, I feel like if I were... I kind of get why they turned to Chaos, because these were the neglected sons, right? They're the sons that, like, no one gave a shit about. I kind of get it. But, like, ugh, it's so sad. But also, I side with, like, the Emperor anyways, because that is objectively the good side, right? But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I don't get why the neglected guys, like the neglected sons, decided to choose to go for the path that they went on, right? Oh man, I'm so sad.